Okay, welcome to the City Council meeting, the regular City Council meeting of June 22nd for the City of Farmington Hills. This is Vicki Barnett calling the meeting to order. We will start, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please join me in saying the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on, this is a roll call vote for attendance.
Mayor Barnett.
Present.
Council members Bolaware.
Here.
Bridges. I believe he is absent.
Correct.
Council member Knoll.
Here.
Massey.
Here.
Newland.
Here.
And Steckloff.
Here.
Thank you.
Moving on, next item on the agenda is correspondence. Does anybody have any correspondence to report that we didn't all receive?
Actually, Mayor, we've not approved the agenda yet. That was just the roll call.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just following, and it's missing on my regular reading notes here. So we have an agenda. There is one change to the agenda, but we're going to leave the agenda as is, and that's the public hearing, and I'll talk to you about that later. But because the public hearing has been noticed, we will leave that in our agenda as published. Is there anybody who would like to move the acceptance of the agenda as printed?
Madam Mayor, this is Ken. I would move approval of the agenda as published.
Support.
Okay. So it's been moved by Dr. Massey, supported by Councilwoman Steckloff. This is a roll call vote unless there's any discussion. Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Council members Newland.
Yes.
Bolaware. Council member Bolaware. I will come back to her. Councilmember Steckloff.
Yes.
Massey.
Yes.
Knoll.
Yes.
Councilmember Bolaware.
Yes.
And Mayor Barnett.
Yes.
Thank
Okay, the agenda is approved. Now we will move on to correspondence. Is there correspondence that anyone would like to report that we haven't already all received? Okay, I did receive an email regarding wearing masks at City Hall, and we made sure that all of the staff are wearing masks and that when greeting the public, everybody is properly social distanced and dressed accordingly. Boyer, would you like to report on that and what we've done at City Hall that people will find interesting when they first walk into the building?
Thank you, Mayor. As people enter the building, we are asking them to wear a mask to come into the building. Our staff will have a mask on when they're meeting face-to-face. You'll also notice that we have plastic shields in front of all of our counters, and we have social distancing markers on the floor. So it's every counter, there's a 6-foot space from counter to counter, from person to person. The plexiglass shields will protect the public. The mask will protect the public. We continue to clean and monitor the building and make sure that we have hand sanitizers at all our entrances. And we're disinfecting our City Hall pretty much on a nightly basis. And we feel that we've been open now to the public for a week and things seem to be going very well. Thank you.
Very good. Next is the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the items may be removed from the consent agenda for consideration. this will be read by Mayor Pro Tem Valerie Knoll.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 4, recommended approval of annual bid waivers and awards for fiscal year 2020/2021. It's a CMR 6-20-74. Item 5, recommended approval of award of bid for golf utility carts to Midwest Golf and Turf in the amount of $30,277. And this is CMR 6-20-75. Item 6, recommended approval of award of bid for replacement of compressor breathing air recharge system at fire stations 5 and number 1 to West Shore Fire Incorporated in the amount of $88,703.10. And this is CMR 6-20-76. Item 7, recommended approval of award of increase to contract for the Caustic Center natatorium heating and ventilation upgrades to AC Building Systems in the amount of $24,783. And this is CMR 6-20-77. Item 8, recommended approval of award of bid for the 2020 mulch replacement program to Progressive Irrigation Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $46,345 with possible extensions. And this is CMR 6-20-78. Item 9, recommended approval of award of bid for the 2020 pavement marking program to JV Contracting Incorporated in the amount of $168,320 with possible extensions. And this is CMR 6-20-79. Item 10, recommended approval of a special event permit for the Narden Park Food Truck Do Good Dinner events to be held on July 8, 15, 22, and 29, 2020. Item 11, recommended approval of the City Council regular session meeting minutes of June 8, 2020.
Okay, is there a motion or discussion?
Mayor, Madam Mayor, this is Jackie.
Yes.
Before making the motion, I do have a comment to make about the consent agenda items that is regarding the budget that we have, or the approval of the awards for the various bids that we have.
We need a motion in order to discuss it.
Oh, okay. All right.
So if you would like to make the motion to move the consent agenda, I will call you up first for discussion.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to move the consent agenda.
And this is Councilmember Knoll. I'll support it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Councilwoman Boulware.
Yes, it's just a general comment. Asking if there's any way that we could receive the consent agenda items maybe a week before the council meeting, so I could have adequate time to kind of look at it and really digest what's going on as a new council member. It's very difficult to do that, just getting the items, so quickly to the council meetings. I don't know if in the past these would have been discussed in our study sessions or what the process have been in the past.
Mr. Boyer, would you like to answer that?
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, we can do the best we can to try to get the information to the council members more than 4 days in advance. We will try to do that. I don't know if she has a question on a particular one, but we're happy to answer that question. But we will certainly work to get that information out as soon as we can. And sometimes it depends on when the bid opening is.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the bid opening might be 2 to 3 days before we actually finalize the report and get it to you. So we will do our best to try to get that to you earlier.
In the past, would these have been discussed in the study sessions, or that was not something that occurred during that time? Is it just it comes out on a Friday, these items?
Yeah, if you're talking about the item, I think it's number 4 on the bid waivers.
Mm-hmm.
Go down the list. Those on the bid waivers, those are ongoing projects that we have going from year to year. So those would be things that were discussed in the budget. These are supports for the different contracts that we have, like our cybersecurity, our financial software maintenance. These are ongoing projects that we have throughout the year. BSNA, which is another one of our software, and that's for the maintenance of those.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Are you satisfied?
Well, if I could get these prior to, it would be very helpful, because in going through them, I did have a few questions, but that would mean taking all of them off the consent agenda to discuss. And they were just minor, just really information for me to get a better handle on how these bids are awarded and decided as to who is going to get the bid or not. Sometimes they're the lowest bidder, sometimes they're not. Sometimes there's a relationship that's been established over a period of time that they're awarded to, those types of things.
Okay.
We're happy to discuss that with you, Councilwoman. These are all, if you look on the justification, you will see it's either state bid, sole source bid, but we're happy to discuss those with you.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay. And don't forget, for anybody in the public who has a question about the agenda, or for our council members, we can always contact the city manager and ask questions in the morning, so that we can be prepared and maybe answer those live during our council meetings, or get you more information. And certainly for the public, you are always welcome to send us an email or a fax, or in this case, call in. And this is a good opportunity for me to tell you what the call-in number is. And the call-in number for tonight, if you are listening and you would like to comment, the telephone number for tonight is 1-312-626-6799. Again, the dial-in number for tonight is 1-312-626-6799. Is that correct, Ms. Smith?
That is correct.
Okay. So we can always.
It does look like one of the attendees have their hand up. I don't know if they have a question about the consent agenda, possibly.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Do you have a question on the consent agenda?
No, as long as I can, in comments, can talk to you through Zoom, I'm happy.
Okay. Would you like to, are you here to comment during public comments?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we will call back on Mr. Eugene. I don't know what your last name is, but we'll call on you during public questions and comments.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Okay. I do have a letter from Tom DeWard. Yes? Do we have anyone else to comment during consent agenda? Okay, well, I will read in, because it has to do with the probably the recommended approval of annual bid waivers. I'm going to read Mr. DeWard has a letter that he would like read in for the comments on the consent agenda. And so I will read that, and then we will have city staff respond. From Mr. DeWard, the first item on the consent agenda begins with the city charter requires sealed competitive bidding for commodities that individually or aggregately exceed $10,000 in one fiscal year. The charter also requires a waiver if it is in the best interest of the city not to competitively bid for a product or services. The list of vendors provided to council does not include any of the engineering firms. Has council ever approved an engineering contract for road construction work as part of the consent agenda or the regular agenda? Has council ever reviewed engineering contracts related to road construction? Does council know who negotiates these contracts and who approves the contracts? Does council believe it is appropriate to use the same engineering firm to set the bid specifications and then to approve the work? Is council aware that over $900,000 in contracts were signed with one engineering firm for road work in Independence Commons SAD, and hundreds of thousands of dollars of extras were approved? Is council aware that the engineering firm that performed the work in Independent Commons added 200% overhead for each labor dollar? Perhaps council should order a thorough independent review of all engineering awards, beginning with the work in Independence Commons. And this is from Mr. DeWard. Would Mr. Boyer or Mr. Jopik like to respond to this email?
Sure, I can at least handle parts of it. Mr. DeWard has sent similar correspondence to City Council in the past. I think there were 2 prior meetings where we received inquiries regarding the bidding of engineering services. Following receipt of both of those emails, we did respond during the City Council meeting. The third time he's inquired about bidding of engineering contracts, I'll provide the same answer that we provided previously, which is that as council is aware, those being engineering services are consulting services, and the City Council did in fact review and approve proposals for the engineering consultants back in 2016. At that time and at a public meeting, City Council approved HRC, Hubbell Roth & Clark, and a number of other engineering firms to provide as-needed engineering services to the city for its construction projects, geotechnical, surveying, environmental, traffic, and similar types of engineering and related services. I think that answers most of the questions as far as how much was charged under certain contracts. Don't have that type of specific detail on hand. And I think it's fairly common practice for engineering firms. They don't set the bid specifications. The city does but does work with the engineering firm, both in terms of establishing the bid specifications by the city and performing some of the inspections and reviews of materials pertaining to them to make sure they're built according to the plans and specs. So I think that pretty much answers the question in a very similar fashion, even though there were some added questions here.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, I would like to add to that professional services such as our auditors, certain extra firms that we need to hire for consulting for engineering or for road repair or for planning and development. Those professional services are usually done on a multi-year basis, and they are done at public meetings. So this would be what Mr. DeWard is talking about, is a contract for professional services being rendered in the engineering department. And the commonplace way we approve those is they're set in our budget, they're approved through our budget process, or at a public meeting where they are also gone over and those bids are approved at a public meeting. So that's standard operating procedure. The particular bid waivers that we did in this award are for bids that we don't really take part in sometimes. They're through the state or through the county. Or they are ongoing bids that continue a very, very advantageous price to the community. And again, that's why this is coming back to us, so that we can approve the annual bid waivers at a public meeting for the city. This calls for a roll call vote.
Council members Bullower?
Yes.
Steckloff?
Yes.
Massey?
Yes.
Knoll?
Yes.
Newland?
Yes.
And Mayor Barnett?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is public questions and comments. So let's go to our county commissioner first, and then we'll go to Eugene, who has called in. And then I also have some other public comments and questions. You are limited to 5 minutes. And if you have to comment, if you want to comment on anything that is on the agenda, we ask that you comment at the time that it's brought up. So is County Commissioner Gershenson on the line?
It looks, she was on under her name, so it looks like she may be offline right now, but I do have this in front of me if you'd like me to read it.
That would be great. Thank you. This is from our County Commissioner, Marcia Gershenson. From County Commissioner Marcia Gershenson, she says, County Executive Dave Coulter announced with Oakland School Superintendent Wanda Cook Robinson the Oakland Together School Nurse Initiative to provide students, parents, teachers, and staff the confidence they need to return to school safely in the fall. With the support of the Board of Commissioners, our county health departments will staff dozens of school nurses in order to help implement best practices for preventing the spread of COVID-19. Also, we have allocated $10 million to help nonprofits resume services that were severely impacted by the pandemic. The application period has closed, and we are working with United Way to administer this fund. Money is available to nonprofits that provide vital services such as food, shelter, healthcare, and financial assistance to Oakland County residents. In addition, the county is partnering with Michigan Works and the Oakland Livingston Human Service Agency to provide free, confidential financial coaching to county residents impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Coaches will work with clients to assess their financial wellness, identify budget goals and solutions, and create customized action plans for them to use. Coaches will remain in close contact to monitor residents' progress and help them return to enhanced financial security. There are so many good things happening to rebuild our economy and workforce. Oakland County Michigan Works announced their Summer Young Professionals program, which gives residents 18 to 24 the opportunity to earn a free industry-recognized certification for a job, a cash bonus, and a laptop computer upon certification. Eligibility is determined on several factors and on a case-by-case basis. For more information, contact the Michigan Works office nearest you. Please reach out to me, Marcia Gershenson, with any questions regarding any of those programs or for any help any of our residents need. Thank you. That's very good information. Thank you. And then we have Eugene, who's on the line.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you. Hi, my name's Eugene Greenstein. I live in Farmington Hills. I'm calling to tell you what a great job our police department's done. And I'm quite concerned that there's going to be a bicycle ride around City Hall. Although I have no issue with them wanting to honor the memory of the poor young man in Cleveland from 6 years ago. I think that trying to disparage our police department, which had nothing to do with that kind of behavior, and to my knowledge, in the 30-some years I've lived here, has been exemplary in terms of how they treat everyone in the community. I just feel that the council needs to make a statement in support of our police. They're under, in general, attack across the country, and we've got a great police department. I know that Ken Massey has waxed eloquently over the years about the accomplishments of our police department and its ranking in the state. And of course, we have an excellent fire department also. So I would hope that there would be a strong statement made by council in support of our police. The bicycle riders should be riding down 12 Mile and not taking shots at our police department. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Eugene, can we just have your street name?
Pardon?
For the minute? Can we just have your street name for the minute?
Oh, sure. Old Franklin.
Oh, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We did, Pardon me?
Yeah, go ahead.
When we passed our resolution, our proclamation 2 weeks ago on racial relations, we pointed out that we do have an award-winning police department, and I want to thank you very much for chiming in on what a great job they do. Jeff, our chief, Jeff King, and before him, Chief Nebus, and all the other chiefs we've had have worked very hard to make sure that we have an accredited police department. Chokeholds have been banned in our community for as long as I can remember. And we take really good care that our police officers do the community policing that they need to do to know the community very well. And that's why, together with the citizens, we've been able to have one of the lowest crime rates in the state. We're one of the safest communities in the country for a community our size. And in addition to that, all of our officers have a duty to intervene and to protect citizens, regardless of whether they are on or off duty. And I want to thank you for pointing that out. We have done that numerous times, including the other programs that we support that fund remediation for citizens long before they get into the criminal justice system, to avoid people getting into the criminal justice system, to make sure that every citizen in Farmington Hills, regardless of color, creed, religion, or origin of birth, has the same opportunity as everybody else. And I am very proud of that. And I also accept the right of the public to understand that our police department and our community is very different from some others. And we take pride in what we do. And I'm glad that citizens like you notice that. And that's been our calling card for a long time. And I am very proud of it. And thank you for calling in to remind us of how lucky we are to live here. Again, if anybody would like to call in, that number for public questions and comments is 1-312-626-6799. I do have 2 letters to read into the record for public comments, and I will start with Mr. William Lewis, who lives on Kilray Drive in Farmington Hills. He lives next door to... Yes, go ahead.
Mayor, yeah, he is actually on the line.
Oh, okay, good. Mr. Lewis.
Hello, how are you doing today? How's the council doing this evening?
We're doing fine.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for the time, and thank you, Mrs. Smith, for coordinating everything. And I know you have the email in front of you, but I think that I could really speak to it. I hope that you have the images that I've sent of the home. And I just want to just state that my family and I, we love Farmington Hills. We we closed on our home in 2016. Pending some renovations, we moved in early 2017, and everything is great. We love it. And then we discovered in 2017 that the house that we purchased next to ours at 25592 Kilray has been vacant for 30 years. Now, that's not a crime in and of itself, but the gentleman that owns the home and his family, there's no upkeep. The home looks vacant. There's rodents, there's debris all over the roof. There was bushes that were growing in front of the fire hydrant that I personally had to call the fire department, who directed me to call the Oakland County Water Department. And it took 2 men about 3 hours to cut the bush down. That's how bad it was, in front of the fire department. And so in doing my research on this, and I've been working very well with your code enforcement, Mr. Shankin, and his superior, Mr. Rant. But I did some digging, and it's just that the ordinances, I was really surprised to see that the ordinances that are on the books are in my opinion, are minimal, coming from the suburb that we moved from, where a home would not be able to sit like this for so long, and to bring down the property value. That's first summer 2017. My wife actually said that she wished we never bought the home. And it's really discouraging when you want to come to an area such as Farmington Hills, and you don't want something like this to get out to other communities. And I'm just really asking for your help. Like I said, I don't know if you have the images that were sent, but I sent a lot of images of the condition of the home. And I'm just really asking for help as to what as a proud resident of Farmington Hills, what we can do to strengthen the ordinances and compel owners who are either in the home or out of the home to take care of their property. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You are one of my neighbors, by the way, so thank you for calling in. We did have a response that was emailed to you from Ed Gardner, or at least to our city staff. And I would like to ask staff, do we need to review our blight ordinances at this point?
And Mayor, it's Dave Boyer. We do have ordinances in place. The property owner was contacted. He did do some improvements in the front of this home, did not do the improvements in the back of the home. And I think Mr. Shankin met Mr. Lewis at his property and was able to look at the property. Mr. Shankin has given, from the city staff, has given the property owner to, as of June 26th, he must complete the improvements on the back of the property. If not, we have a process in place where we start writing tickets and going through that formal process with the courts. So he has until June 26th, which is next week, to get the property cleaned up.
Okay, it's this Friday.
Sorry, this Friday.
Okay.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, Mr. Lewis, sure.
Okay, so I just like that this owner, he has, this house has been vacant over 30 years. We've been here, as I said, since 2016. My neighbors, most of my neighbors are a little older than myself. They are really, I'll be honest with you, they're devastated. Some of them have been fighting with this gentleman for some time. And I'll be honest with you, I don't see any of the updates that the person that jumped on a second ago stated has been done. The only thing that's been done is the bush that I coordinated with the Oakland, the fire department to cut down. And my thing is this: as far as your ordinances, and I poured over them, there really is the only thing of if the grass is over 8 inches or if there's rubbish that is stored in the front of the home, which he does have, but there's nothing that addresses just outside of that. It just seems to appear that as a resident in Farmington Hills community, it just seems that we are left vulnerable. So in my opinion, there does need to be some stronger laws, because you have a person like this who's only going to do the minimum. He knows that he comes out, he does this, and then he goes away. And so I do have neighbors. I've talked to most of my neighbors. I'm taking this call for them. They have stated that they want to move because they're tired of it. So I don't expect everything to be finished here. I plan to be very
vocal, I hope.
Vocal. Yes, vocal, and thank you, vocal, and really trying to strengthen strong, because I came from Oak Park. In Oak Park, this type of home would not be allowed to exist in this condition for this long a period of time.
Okay, can we make sure that our zoning department stays on top of this?
Absolutely.
Okay, and could you give us a report, since he's got to get this done by Friday? Can we have a report over the weekend about what the condition of the house is and what he's done or hasn't done and what we're going to do to follow up?
I can prepare that for you, yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. And Mr. Lewis, keep holding our feet to the fire, will you?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And Mayor Barnett, this is Jackie Bolivar speaking.
Yes.
Is there any way that we can look at our ordinance to address some of the concerns that Mr. Lewis had? He mentioned that in culling through the ordinances on blight, there were really only 2 that he saw, and that was on cutting the grass and storing, I guess, trash or things outside the home. So perhaps we can take a look at it and see if we need to update some of that language to reflect the conditions that he and his neighbors are experiencing in their neighborhood.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Steve Jopik here, city attorney. And I did speak with Ed Gardner briefly about this today. He brought it to my attention. And there are more ordinances than just high grass and some outdoor storage in yards, but there are other things that are required in yards to keep them in good order and in good shape. The ordinances do not, however, go to the level of requiring shrubs to be trimmed to any particular degree. And I think from the sounds of it, that's at least part of the concern here. But as far as the condition of structures, the exterior condition of structures, we do have the International Property Maintenance Code. I do not at this point have pictures or anything. The first, obviously, as you heard from Mr. Boyer, it hasn't reached the stage of going to court for prosecution in front of the court yet. So it hasn't reached my office at this stage, but it is getting close. It sounds like this Friday is a deadline for the property owner to take certain actions. And in talking to Ed, we did agree that we would take a look at the ordinances, see if there's anything else we could do, see what Oak Park has. Mr. Gardner did mention that to me, that was something that was mentioned as perhaps a sample ordinance to take a look at in terms of other requirements we might want to look at. So that is our status on that, and be happy to report back on that in the future.
Yeah, I think council would like a survey of the ordinances that are done in other communities, and then bring that back to council so that we can take a look at it and see what changes we might want to make. I know that would then go to what would be zoning or planning commission to take a look at those ordinances as well. Well,
it may, but it likely won't. The Blight Ordinances are police power ordinances. Those are not under the zoning ordinance, so they're not required to go to the planning commission or ZBA. They wouldn't be part of variances or whatnot. They're more property maintenance type ordinances. So it would come back to city council, perhaps for a study session if we ever get back to the point where we can hold those and go from there if there are things we can do. Trimming shrubs and that sort of maintenance might sometimes be considered cosmetic in the eye of the beholder and so forth. So we might have a little bit of a hurdle there. I'll be interested to see what Oak Park has in place and maybe some other communities. We will do that survey. Ed and I, Mr. Gardner and I did talk about that. So we will.
Okay. And make sure council gets those underlying documents as well.
Mayor Barnett?
Yes.
This is Council Member Knoll. I would be in support of a study session this summer on this issue. We have a couple new council members, and I mean, some of us have dealt with this issue before, but I think it would be very educational to have Ed and the city attorney walk the council members through exactly what ordinances we have and the process for enforcement. I know when I came on council, I had to learn what that was. So I think that should be talked about in this meeting. And also not only what we currently have, what the process for enforcement is, but then at that point, we could discuss the survey of what other communities have and also hear from the city council, from the city attorney on what's enforceable and what isn't enforceable, because obviously whatever suggestions we want to make, we have to make sure that any changes to our ordinances are legal and pass much court cases out there. So I would hope we could have a study session on this summer or really the summer, or early fall. I know we've got a couple other items on the agenda for study sessions as well.
Yeah, I agree. So let's see how we can work that out for our July calendar.
Mayor Barnett, may I ask for a clarification? You mentioned very quickly something about underlining.
No, underlying documents, like the text of the codes in other cities.
I see. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. And we could probably schedule this for later in July. Is that agreeable?
This is Ken. Yeah, I'm good with that, Mayor.
Yes.
Okay.
It just suddenly went very quiet, and I thought
it sure did.
Okay, so yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Like that too, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Remember when we did the rental extension ordinance, we dove in a little, but not. I don't think we've looked into this. So
okay, and that was Councilwoman Steckloff. Councilwoman Newland, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I think this is a great idea because, of course, being new to council, I would definitely like to know what is enforceable or not enforceable.
Yeah, and a little primer over what homeowners associations can do and what we can enforce and what we can't. That would be wonderful.
Mhm.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, we hope to get back to you soon, and we hope to have some good news for you this week.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else on the line at this moment? Okay. Okay. Ms. Bernstein-Kahn, go ahead.
Okay, so I wanted to echo Mr. Greenstein's comments. Police departments all around are taking great heat these days. And we just need to be so proud of our police department and how well they're run, how well they act, and that they really are people that we can feel free to call on when in need. And that is so important because without the rule of law and good police departments to enforce it, we will degrade into a society that none of us want. So my kudos to the Farmington Hills Police Department and to all of those involved. And I just want to say a huge thank you to them.
Thank you. I'm sure they're going to love hearing this tonight. This is great. They don't often get such cheers for the work that they do and the danger they face. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have anybody else on the line?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I also wanted to speak to the wonderful work of our police department. I am a longtime resident and taxpayer of Farmington Hills, and I wanted to express my support and appreciation of the Farmington Hills Police Department. And echoing what you said, Mayor, we should never take for granted what is often a dangerous and a thankless job that all our local enforcement officers and their families sacrifice to keep our community the desirable place to live and raise a family that we all know and are so grateful that it is. They are our brave first responders on the front lines protecting and serving, and whether that is responding to domestic violence, child abuse, drug trafficking, human trafficking, robberies, break-ins, homicides, traffic accidents, school shootings, missing persons, and a myriad of other threats. I did a little bit of digging, and local news coverage attests that we have so much to be amply proud of. Farmington Hills was one of the first 10 fully accredited departments in Michigan, certifying that our police department meets best practice standards after comprehensive training and review and ongoing compliance education and training. According to our local press, this accreditation was a 2-year process, an investment our community made to assure the men and women in blue get the best training to deliver the best services to our community. And if we want to maintain this very stellar police department, we've got to continue to provide the necessary financial, community, and moral support to our police. We need to attract the best, most qualified and dedicated professionals and then give them the training and tools that they need to continue to demonstrate excellence in keeping our community safe and vibrant. We do have so much to be proud of because according to our former police chief, who incorporated findings of Time magazine into his statement, cited in a 2018 report in Hometown Life, and I quote, Farmington Hills enjoys a long-standing reputation as one of Michigan's safest cities. Various research companies last year ranked Farmington Hills the 3rd safest city in Michigan, the 3rd best city in the state to raise kids, the best place to live in Michigan, according to Time, and one of the top 5 safest cities to retire in America. Just think of all the little league teams that our local police support and sponsor the kids programs, the charity drives, and so many other wonderful initiatives they undertake. They contribute invaluably to the quality of life and public safety in our community. Day in, day out, they are there for us. They have our backs, and now we need to back the men and women in blue here in Farmington Hills. So thank you very much for your time and consideration of my comments.
Okay, do we have your name and street?
You do. It's Linda Stolberg on Gloucester.
Okay. Oh, great to hear from you, Linda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, and I also want to thank our fire department as well, who is also 100% advanced life support trained. So when they respond to an illness, injury, or accident, they are all trained, and we keep the ongoing training for both our police and fire up to date, and they participate in joint community training as well, so that they can respond to large incidences and actually be the leaders throughout the two counties, Oakland and Wayne, for services for massive responses that are necessary. So we are very lucky indeed. I love hearing all these great comments about the people that serve us every day.
And if I can just add, Mayor, due to the fact that, as the last caller indicated, they are coming under such assault, maybe we should encourage, or I'd like to encourage then, other community residents to express their support, whether it's in writing a letter, sending a note, stopping by, giving a call, because again, they need our support, not just financially, but they need our moral support. As you know, there are widespread threats of blue flu. And again, I think it's just critical and imperative that we let them know how valued and appreciated they are.
Thank you. They're going to love this meeting so far when they hear it. And is there anybody else on the line who would like to comment? Okay, well, I also received another letter that I would like to read in. It's from Simon Cohn. He is extremely proud of the community I have found here in Farmington Hills for the last year. And there are many aspects of life in Michigan that are the best of the two very different worlds. I grew up in and went to college in. This is an issue that is dear to my heart, as I have fallen in love with the natural beauty the state offers. The idea of a community's waste needlessly despoiling the wonder around us is nauseating me. Additionally, recycling offers commercial benefits to the community and the world at large. I also believe that good stewardship of the environment is fundamental to Michigan and the way of life I have been shown. I have already contacted the complex and administration, and they have responded saying they used to offer recycling, but it didn't work out well. They offered an identical dumpster to the one currently present, and their response was to issue fines to transgressing tenants instead of trying to assist to correct the disposal problems. After a period of time, they ceased offering the service at all. They have continued to systematically stonewall efforts to have a discussion on this issue. I do not believe that the guardianship of the environment should be left to the whims of large corporations whose management does not reside in the same neighborhood, particularly when local government has the authority to make positive change in the world. I ask that you put easy access to recycling services for every member of the community into legislation. Easy access to recycling services would include, at a minimum, a receptacle for paper and plastic next to each garbage can or dumpster collected. The idea of hauling a single household's worth of waste to the recycling facility with a car is antithetical to the idea of environmental care. Using a car in this manner also clogs the streets with unnecessary traffic. And if the city cannot or will not supply this access, requiring it is an easy first step. Not providing or requiring this services directly hurts the financial interests of and control of the complexes in Farmington Hills, Michigan, at the expense of those that live here. and the state of the environment that we all want our kids to grow up in. Thank you for your time and concern, Mr. Simon Cohn. My understanding here in reading this is that there is, and we have talked about this before, there's a lack of recycling bins in many of our privately owned streets, in condos and apartment complexes. Is there anything that we can do regarding this, Mr. Boyer or Mr. Jopik?
Mayor, it's Dave Boyer. We have looked at this in the past. I think several years ago, this topic came up, and it comes up every couple of years. You mentioned that it is private property, and each one of the condos or apartment complexes have their own contracts with their waste hauling company. It's not the same contract that the city has. So it's really up to each property owner to address recycling. We have looked at different ways to try to do it as a public, but again, it is private property, and the city can't go in there and put a bin. All we can do is try to encourage those property owners to look at recycling and try to find ways to make it happen. He did mention there are sites you can take your recycles to, but you're driving out of our community to do that. So that's not probably the best way to do it. Certainly something that we can revisit, but again, it's private property owners, and they have to make the decision to recycle.
Okay. This is another, does anybody on council have a comment regarding this? Okay, well, I would like to see this on a study session as well. Maybe we could provide periodic pickup on the main roads with a bin dropped off there or something. I would like to pursue this because this is, we've just started making sure that we have recycling in all of our parks and public areas. And this is something that's been bothering me for a long time. I have some friends that live in apartments in Farmington Hills that occasionally drop off their recycling to my recycling bin, and I take it because they pay taxes here too. But I would like to see us pursue this a little better, or at least revisit it in a council study session arena.
Madam Mayor, this is Ken.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to actually add that, yes, we have actually talked about this, at least every other year.
Yes, for 20 years.
and Mr. Boyer's really he's done a good job outlining the challenges that we've had, but it's always good to hear because laws change and perhaps there are things that we can improve, because I think it has always been the overall focus of this council to be as environmentally sensitive as we can. And with the recycling success we've had in the public parts of the community, we want to try and extend that. So I think that revisiting it is a good thing to do.
Okay. So when we have a study session, we can, zoning and recycling seem to come into play together. So maybe we'll look at them in one study session together. Okay, anybody else have any public questions or comments? Okay. Okay, then we will move on to council member comments and announcements.
Mayor, this is Jackie, and I do have some public comments.
Okay, go ahead.
As most of everyone knows, that June 19th we celebrated Juneteenth. It's the 155th June since the freeing of the last enslaved people 2.5 years ago in Galveston, Texas. And during our last week for Farmington Hills, we did issue a proclamation for Juneteenth, as well as that was sponsored by Faith Church. And on Sunday, Father's Day, we did have a Joshua walk from Narden Park to City Hall. And I'd like to give a special thanks to Jeff King, who came out there on Father's Day to talk to all the walkers and tell them the philosophy of the Farmington Hills Police. I think we have one of the best police chiefs around. I'd also like to give a special thanks to police officer, maybe Sergeant Clark, who was the one that was helping us manage the walk from Narton Park to City Hall. And I'm sure it was quite difficult, but he handled it with a great deal of professionalism. And I'd like to commend him, for his service and for all the other officers who were out there yesterday. As most people know, the protest that's been going on for the past few weeks is not against policing, it's just against bad policing. There's some bad policing occurring in our nation, and these protests are a result of those profiling and bad conduct by officers that are totally unwarranted. But I like to say I support police, but I support good policing. What I'd like to do is I'd like to ask if we could put on a study session sometime in the future, making Juneteenth a paid holiday Farmington, for Farmington Hills, to see if that's possible, what it would take, what costs would be involved, and look at that and see if that could occur.
Okay, that's a very fair request. I know that the federal government is looking at making that a national holiday as well, as it should be. It currently is a recognized holiday in the state of Michigan, but we could discuss it. Mr. Boyer, Mr. Jopik, did you have anything to add? Okay.
I was going to say we certainly can add it to a study session in the future.
Okay. That would be wonderful. I think it's only a matter of time before the federal government finally recognizes it, seeing it's so important, and we've had the bills are getting bipartisan support on both sides of the aisle, in both chambers, for making it a national holiday. So it would go a long way to at least try to start to heal the country. So and I'm glad, Ms. Bolawar, that you pointed out it's bad policing that we are upset with. And so thank you. And I want to thank you for delivering the proclamation for us to the AME on Juneteenth.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda.
Wait. This is Mary Newland. I like to make a comment.
Okay.
Or maybe more than thoughts, which could be dangerous with me thinking. But I was starting to look at all these communities that our monuments are coming down, memorials are coming down, which has acknowledged the bad history of our country. And we do have a subdivision that I've always wondered why I didn't like it. I like the names in it. Fredericksburg, Shiloh, Vicksburg, Gettysburg. Some of these were the biggest battles during the war, and some of them were victories that was not, let's say, in the best interest of the country. I was thinking maybe we should have a study session. I know it's difficult to potentially change the name of streets because so much is involved for the homeowners, but I thought maybe we should think about maybe changing or maybe doing some kind of honorary renaming of these streets, just so we can get rid of the bad connotations that's associated with some of these streets names.
I'm not opposed to a study session. Mr. Boyer, Mr. Jopik, especially Mr. Jopik, we don't have any, once these plats are set and recognized, and then they go to the Great Seal of the state of Michigan. Yes, we do have a Great Seal, people. We really, really do. I was on the Boundary Commission. I can vouch for that. I don't know if we have the right to go in and start changing names, nor do I know if that's the right thing to do.
Right.
Okay.
Well, if you'd like me to address it partially, at least, I do.
Yes.
Mayor Barnett, you raise an excellent point that a number of the streets are platted subdivisions. I don't know if that particular neighborhood is a platted subdivision or not, or any of the others that there might be concerns with. There are processes for amending plats. and it usually involves the residents that live there. As far as name changes to streets, if they have been dedicated to the city, I'd have to look into it, to be honest with you, to see if we have any independent authority to change the name of streets, even in platted subdivisions, without having to amend the plat. Other than that, we would probably be wanting to talk to our traffic engineer, using our resources to find out what other processes there might be with other public roads that aren't necessarily in a platted subdivision.
Okay.
It's kind of in need of some investigation and to get some answers.
Okay. Ms. Newland, does that satisfy you at this moment?
Oh, goodness, yes.
Okay. Anybody?
This is Councilmember Knoll. I'd just like to point out, when you're talking about streets, you're talking about hundreds of people that live on those streets.
Absolutely.
That all have spent lots of money on different items that recognize their address. And to ask 100 people to just change the address of their address because it may potentially be the name of a southern city or a battlefield, something that's historical, I think that would run into very financial difficulty for some people. It's not just, all of a sudden now I've lived on the street for 20 years and you're asking me to change the name of it, but there's a financial aspect of it too for many people.
It's a huge financial aspect. And it's
but I was just looking for maybe not changing the street name, but doing some kind of honorary recognition of new name. I mean, not actually changing the street name, but maybe something just kind of, honorary or something we could do.
Well, we can toss this around later. Maybe some public art projects. But Ms. Knoll, you're absolutely right. I don't think that we have control over that as a city when it's a road in a subdivision. And it's not just that; it's all the delivery companies that would have to be updated in terms of the residence street and everything else. I just
all of the maps that are out there.
Right, and it's
Google
not
Maps.
Not like Atlanta's changed their name either. Right. So it right. We can, so but if we do have some major public roads, and I don't think we do, that would be different. It's a huge financial undertaking, as well as a true literal logistic nightmare. But we could see if there's some alternative projects we can do. And I do recommend that people drive around. And I know Mayor Pro Tem Knoll, you are on the Historic Commission, correct?
I'm the liaison I'm the liaison for that, correct? Yeah.
Right. So I encourage people to look at the green markings that are up in front of buildings. You'll see one dedicated to the Underground Railroad in our community on 11 Mile Road. And there are several others around town. So we do recognize the fact that we have a Quaker history and we were a stop on the Underground Railroad. Anyone else have anything under council member comments and announcements?
Oh.
Did someone sneeze? Bless you.
No, it wasn't a sneeze, Mayor. It was more of a little bit of exasperation, and I'll just say what's in my mind. Honestly, we have things in front of us as a community that we need to deal with.
Yes.
We don't need to look for things, and history is history, and those who fail to study history and understand it are doomed to repeat it. And I think that that's much more of a philosophical starting of a discussion than it is going anywhere else. But I think we should probably move on with what's on our agenda.
Right. And I agree with you. Doing zoning updates and are quite important. So with that said, anybody else under city council member comments and announcements? Okay, we'll move on to the city manager update.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to mention again that City Hall is now open to the public. So please stop in. If you have anything, you certainly can continue to work online if you'd like, so you don't have to come into City Hall. Our special service department is starting to offer some camp programs for the summer. They are very limited this year. Typically, we have 3,500 kids in camp in the summertime, and due to COVID and social distancing and all the requirements that we have, our number is going to be down. So we certainly don't have the space for everybody this year, but we are trying to help parents out and give the kids some options for this summer, but it will certainly be reduced from what it was in the past. Other than that, we're all set. Thank you.
Okay, and that brings us to the public hearing. The public hearing, which is item number 2 on our agenda, public hearing and consideration of the introduction of an ordinance amending City Code Chapter 34 zoning to amend the official zoning map in order to rezone the property located at 31066 West 12 Mile Road from B3 General Business District to P1 Vehicular Parking District. Rezoning request 1-3-2020 has been pulled from our agenda by the proponent. But since we have noticed this already as a public hearing, I am going to turn it over to staff to guide us through this. We generally hold the public hearings because they have already been noticed. So, Mr. Boyer, would you like to just introduce this and then we'll open it up for public hearing and close it down?
I will have Ed Gardner's on the line right now. Ed, if you'd like to give an update, please.
Good evening, Mayor, members of Council. Ed Gardner, your Director of Public Planning and Community Development. The proponent at the last moment has submitted a letter or an email that withdraws his request for this rezoning. So pretty much it's off the table from the perspective of the proponent. It was advertised as a public hearing and it is on your agenda. So for courtesy purposes to any member of the public, they could make a comment, but I don't expect council to take action on this rezoning request.
Okay. With that, is there anybody on the line who would like to make comments? I will now officially open the public hearing. Is there anybody on the line who would like to make a public comment? Okay, then I will officially close the public hearing, bring it back to council. There is no official action necessary nor requested at this time. And with that, we'll move on to new business, consideration of approval of the interlocal agreement with Oakland County regarding the Oakland Together CARES Act CTV Fund, CMR 6-20-73.
Thank you, Mayor. I will have Gary Metchin is running our program here to try to recoup some of our costs from COVID. So Gary, if you want to explain this, please.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you this evening, and for City Council's consideration, is the authorization of the City Manager and City Clerk to sign an interlocal agreement between the County of Oakland and the City of Farmington Hills regarding Oakland Together CARES Act, City, Village, and Township, that's what CVT stands for, fund. And so in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the County of Oakland has received $30 million from the United States Department of Treasury as part of the emergency funding relief outlined in the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security, or CARES Act. The County of Oakland is making these funds available for all Oakland County cities, villages, and townships in an effort to reimburse CVTs for some COVID-19 related expenses that were not part of the agency's adopted budget, and that would be as of March 27, 2020. The items and activities eligible for reimbursement are numerous, and staff is currently compiling and evaluating these expenses. Applications for reimbursement must be submitted to the county for consideration no later than November 30th of 2020. City Council approval of the attached interlocal agreement is required for participation in the program. In addition, the interlocal agreement has been reviewed by the city attorney as to form and content. Thank you for your consideration, and we're happy to address any questions you may have.
Okay, does council have any questions? Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
this is Ed, and I would make a motion that the City Council of Farmington Hills hereby approves and authorizes the city manager to sign the interlocal agreement with Oakland County regarding the Oakland Together CARES Act CVT fund.
Okay, is there a second?
Support. This is Councilmember Knoll.
Okay, it's been moved by Dr. Massey, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Knoll. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Steckloff?
Yes.
Massey?
Yes.
Knoll?
Yes.
Newland?
Yeah.
Bullaware?
Yes.
And Mayor Barnett?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and this brings us to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Madam Mayor, this is Ken. I would so move.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
This is very second.
Okay, it's been moved by Dr. Massey, seconded by Councilwoman Steckloff and Newland. This brings us to the end of our official agenda. So I will now end the meeting tonight and officially close it out. We will reconvene at the second Monday in July. Good night, Farmington Hills.